How's it going, everybody? I am Mal the Dictator, and this is a League of Legends guide on how to play Lee Sin the Blind Monk. So basically I'll be giving you some tips and tricks that I use, as well as telling you the builds I use for masteries and runes, as well as items. And hopefully by watching this guide you'll get some insight on how to play Lee Sin more effectively, as well as get a few victories. So I will start off with the basics. Lee Sin is a melee champion who uses energy to power his abilities. He's also unique in the fact that each of his 3 basic abilities gives you a secondary use, so this effectively gives him 7 abilities that he can use throughout the game, and it makes him a really variable champion to play. Gameplay wise, I play Lee Sin as a jungler, so this is what the guide will focus on. However, the laning role and the jungling role have pretty similar builds, so everything I tell you will be viable, even if you choose to play Lee Sin as a laner. So I will start with his first ability, which is Sonic Wave / Resonating Strike. So Sonic Wave is a skill shot ability, which makes you hit an enemy opponent, and that deals damage and lets you cast Resonating Strike for the next 3 seconds. Resonating Strike makes you dash to that target that you hit, and then it deals damage as well as 10% of that target's missing health. So the more injured that target is, the more damage you're going to deal. So you're going to want to try to target the enemy with the least amount of health so you can take them down easily. So this move is effective if you're laning because it allows you to last hit minions from a range, and also lets you harass the enemy champion by hurting them upon impact, as well as once you activate Resonating Strike. As a jungler, I feel that this is one of the best abilities you can use for ganking, because you can use a ranged attack from a bush where they might not be expecting you to be, and then once you activate Resonating Strike, it makes you close the distance to that enemy as if you used Flash. So it's really good because it makes you deal a lot of damage and then covers the distance to get into the battle, so it's a really great initiation as a ganker. And that's why I feel that Lee Sin has a lot of potential as a jungler. His second ability is Safeguard / Iron Will. So to activate Safeguard, you target an ally unit, and this causes Lee Sin to dash to that unit and put a shield on it and Lee Sin himself. And this just blocks incoming damage, and for the next 3 seconds you are able to cast Iron Will. So Iron Will is a buff which lasts for 5 seconds and gives Lee Sin extra lifesteal, spell vamp, and armor. So this is useful in helping keep yourself alive in a team fight, and also keeps your life up while you're jungling. So that will allow you to gank lanes more effectively, as well as continue farming the jungle. So you can target yourself with Safeguard, which will give you the shield, but obviously you will not be able to dash to anything. You can, however, target other anchors, such as a friendly ward or Heimerdinger's turret. So long as it's part of your team, you can use Safeguard to dash to it. So there are a lot of strategic uses for Safeguard. For example, you can use it to chase after an enemy opponent, as we're doing with Wukong right here. So I'm able to dash to the Heimerdinger turret, which lets me close the distance and end up getting the kill on Wukong. Another use you can use is the opposite. Instead of chasing, you can use it to get away from a hairy situation. So you can use it to hop to a minion and get away safely from the enemy team. As I mentioned before, you can use Safeguard to target a ward and dash over terrain. And finally, the Iron Will lifesteal also stacks with Smite, so if you're in a pinch you can restore health quickly. His third ability is Tempest / Cripple. So Tempest is an AoE attack which will deal damage to enemy units as well as reveal them for 4 seconds. Also, for 3 seconds you will be able to cast Cripple, which will slow the movement and attack speed of the enemies revealed by your Tempest attack. So you can use this to get away from a champion who's chasing you, or to slow them down while you're chasing them. It's also really useful for lowering the damage output of a DPS champion, especially one with a high amount of attack speed. And finally, you are able to use it for a reveal. So as you see here, we're fighting Talon. He uses his ultimate, but Annie's able to pick up the kill because he's revealed. Lee Sin's ultimate is Dragon's Rage. So Lee Sin will kick an enemy champion, causing them to be pushed away from him. And if they collide into any ally unit, it will cause that unit to be knocked up and also receive damage. So this is a really useful ability for a lot of different reasons. For example, you can use it to initiate a fight, as you see here. Knocking Sona back allows us to pick up 2 kills in bottom lane during my gank initiation. So we pick up both the Sona and Tryndamere kill. In addition, you can use it to knock an enemy champion back when you're chasing them, and this allows us to pick up the kill on Rise. Another instance is to protect a teammate, so I'm able to kick Katarina's ult away from Annie, and we're able to pick up the kill. And finally, you can use it for straight up damage. If they're low enough, the kick will immediately kill them, allowing you to pick up the kill. Finally, his passive is Flurry, and this is what makes Lee Sin such a great jungler. Basically what happens is every time he uses an ability, and this includes the secondary uses such as Resonating Strike, Iron Will, and Cripple. So you basically have 7 options to activate this. Lee Sin, for his next 2 basic attacks, will gain 50% attack speed, and each hit will return 15 energy each. So this passive is what allows him to stay in jungle because it returns energy, which allows him to consistently use abilities. And when used correctly, you get an almost permanent 50% attack speed increase. So the strategy with this is to use an ability, hit twice, use an ability, hit twice, and just repeat that, and that will allow you to have the extra attack speed and return energy a lot more quickly. So mastering this ability is what's going to separate the excellent Lee Sins from just the average. This is the ability sequence I use for Lee Sin when I'm jungling. So I start off with a Tempest/Cripple due to the AoE damage of Tempest as well as the attack speed decrease of Cripple, and this will make you receive less damage. Second, I go for Safeguard/Iron Will for the shield as well as the lifesteal and armor benefits. And finally, I go for Sonic Wave at level 3. This allows you to gank more effectively, and I then max out that ability, followed by Safeguard second, and finishing up Tempest/Cripple last. And obviously taking Dragon Rage whenever possible at level 6, 11, and 16. These are the runes I use for Lee Sin. So I start with flat physical damage reds, followed by flat armor yellows, magic resist per level blues, and flat physical damage quintessences. So I use the flat physical damage as opposed to armor penetration because all of Lee Sin's damaging abilities are scaled off of his physical damage, and because Lee Sin uses his abilities very often, it's more effective to use that than the armor penetration marks. So aside from dealing more damage on your basic attacks, you also deal more damage from your abilities. So the masteries I use for Lee Sin are a 21-9 and 0 build. So I take the improved summoner spell masteries in both the offense and defense trees for my ghost summoner spell as well as the smite summoner spell that I use in my setup. In addition, I finish off the offense tree with all of the attack damage masteries, and I go down the defense tree until I get the ability that deals damage back to neutral monsters, because that helps a lot with the jungling. So this is the typical jungling map that I take as Lee Sin. I'll start off at the wolf camp, followed by wraiths, and then the 2 golems, and finish off at the red lizard camp, and then port back to base. Then I'll go defeat the blue buff golem, and then go back to wolves, wraiths, and golems. And that should pretty much be the route, and that will allow you to go gank afterward, or you can even gank immediately after taking the red buff. So as a jungling Lee Sin, I will start with a Vampiric Scepter and Tempest at the Wolf Camp. So with your offensive masteries, your Iron Will, and Vampiric Scepter, you should have enough lifesteal to make you extremely sustainable in the jungle, which will allow you to gank more often. So I start by auto-attacking the big wolf using Tempest, auto-attacking twice, using Cripple, and auto-attacking twice. Using the ability auto-attack twice strategy will keep Flurry at its maximum effectiveness, and that gives you a 50% increase to attack speed, as well as allowing you to restore your energy more effectively. So after the wolves, I head over to the Wraith camp, smite the big Wraith, take a point in Safeguard, and then continue to kill the rest of the Wraiths. Once that camp is clear, I head down to the 2 golems, and once again I will auto-attack, use Tempest, auto-attack twice, use Cripple, auto-attack twice, use Safeguard, auto-attack twice, and once again mastering this will allow you to have a lot more health because it stacks with your lifesteal, and also lets you have constant energy, which means that you will never not be able to use an ability when you're in the jungle. So I initiate at the red camp now with a Sonic Wave, and then I continue to take them out with Tempest, Cripple, Safeguard, and Iron Will. At the end of this battle, you should be at about half health, which means that if you would like, you can go and help gank a lane if you're feeling confident with half health, but typically I'll go back to the base and invest in the cloth armor to finish up the wriggles. So the next objective now is to go to the blue buff, and even though Lee Sin doesn't really need the blue buff because he is not mana based and his cooldowns aren't that significant, the gold and experience is very useful. So once you are done with the golem camp, which once again you take it down by using an ability, auto-attacking twice, using an ability, auto-attacking twice, you should be at a pretty good health due to your lifesteal. Once again, smite the blue golem to help it go more quickly. And now you are able to gank anyone you choose. However, if your lanes are doing pretty well, you can always continue to farm. For items, I start off with a Vampiric Scepter. This is going to give you a lot of lifesteal, which helps with your sustainability in jungle, and helps keep your health pretty high. After the Vampiric Scepter, you're going to want to complete that into Wriggle's Lantern as soon as possible. This is a really good item for a jungler. It gives you damage, armor, and more lifesteal, as well as allowing you to put down a ward every 3 minutes. And this is especially useful for Lee Sin because the Safeguard allows him to dash to it. So you'll want to put those in strategic locations. And more importantly, it has a chance for you to deal 500 damage to a minion or monster. So that will help you take down Baron, Dragon, or buffs a lot more quickly. After Wriggles, you're going to want to try to finish Mercury Treads. So this increases your movement speed, gives you magic resist, and it gives you the all-important tenacity, which reduces crowd control effects on you by 35%. After Merc Treads, you're going to want to try to complete a Trinity Force in full. So I will typically start with a Phage component, due to the extra damage and health, as well as making you slow down enemies you hit. But if you need some extra damage, you might want to start with Sheen first, because it gives you the ability where every time you use an ability, which as we've said, Lee Sin has effectively 7 of those, every time you use one, it will give you the ability to deal 100% more damage. So twice as much damage per hit after every ability you use, which is pretty often. So once you've completed Trinity Force, you should be pretty powerful, and you'll want to start becoming more defensive. So we go to an Atma's Impaler, which will give you armor, as well as critical strike, and it will convert 2% of your maximum health into damage. So by now you should have about 2,000 health, which equates to about 40 extra damage. After Atmas, you'll want to go for Warmog's Armor. This will make you pretty tanky. It gives you a lot of health and gives you more health the more minions you kill, for a total of about 1,300 bonus health, and it also gives you a massive amount of regeneration. So it's an all-around good tanky item for you to get, and it works well with Atmas and Paler. So after Warmogs, you're free to go in any direction, depending on what situation you're in. You can also replace any of the previous items, depending on what your needs are. So if you are wanting more damage, options you have include the Bloodthirster. This will give you more lifesteal, as well as a lot of extra attack damage. And the more minions you kill, the more of those effects you get. Additionally, you can get the Black Cleaver, which provides you with armor penetration and damage, as well as attack speed. And finally, you can also get a Last Whisper, which gives you armor penetration and damage. If the enemy team has a fed attack damage champion, or if they're attack damage heavy, you might want to go for Thornmail, which gives you a lot of armor and reflects their physical damage back on them. You can also get a Sunfire Cape because you're a melee champion, so the passive that deals damage to surrounding enemies is always going to be useful. It will also give you more health, which helps with Atmas, as well as a Chain Vest, which gives you more armor. And finally, you can also get a Guardian Angel, which is a very good item if you need to be more tanky. It gives you both match resist and armor, and it also gives you the ability to revive yourself if you are killed in combat. If you are facing an AP heavy team, you might want to get a Force of Nature. This also works very well with a Warmog's Armor because it helps your regeneration based upon your maximum health. In addition, it gives you quite a bit of match resist and increases your movement speed, which will help you chase down enemies more effectively. You can also get the Hex Drinker, which gives you attack damage and magic resist, as well as giving you a shield that will block incoming magic damage. And finally, you could grab a Wit's End, which will give you bonus attack speed, magic resist, and it will also deal 42 magic damage anytime you use your basic attack. And finally, in any game, you should get these items. First is an Elixir of Fortitude, which will increase your health and damage output by a significant amount, so it's always good to get that to give yourself an upper hand over the enemy team. Always get Sight Wards. This will help with map awareness. It will let your team know who's coming to gank them, or it will allow you to gank enemy champions. And as we've already said, Safeguard can target wards, so you can use that for map mobility. Vision Ward does the same thing, with the added effect of allowing you to see invisible units and wards, which will allow you to destroy those and grant yourself map control over the enemy team. And finally, Oracle's Elixir does basically the same thing as Vision Ward, but it is always on your champion. So I hope that this guide has helped you or given you some intrigue into playing Lee Sin, the Blind Monk. He is definitely one of my favorite champions to play. His guerrilla tactics, which let him dash in and out of combat, as well as his versatility and ability to adapt to any situation he's exposed to, makes him a really fun champion to play. So if you guys have any ideas on how to improve this guide, or if you have any strategies that you use when you play Lee Sin, please feel free to leave a comment and share with everyone else. In addition, please thumbs up that like button to let me know that you appreciate or enjoyed this guide, and to give me some more motivation to make videos. So I wish you all good luck, and I hope you can roundhouse kick your way to victory.